Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss a different Big Dumb movie every episode. I'm your host Corey, and I'm here with my co-hosts Alan.
Hello.
And Steve.
Ahoy hoy.
Hey guys. We have a special guest, not in the studio, but a special guest nonetheless, all the way over from Spoilers again. This is actually the creator of the podcast Spoilers, a good friend of the show, my friend Pappy.
Aloha. Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Pappy. You know, I've been meaning to bring this up because, you know, I talk to you guys on Spoilers kind of a lot on Instagram and stuff. Is it fair to say that I am Spoilers' biggest fan? Because I feel like I could say that.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty fair. My mom really likes the podcast too, so like you guys would have to duke it out.
Oh,
yeah.
I see how it is. All right, I'm calling you out, Pappy's mom.
She said, "What podcast are you going on this afternoon?" I said, "It's called Big Dumb Movie." She's like, "Oh, that sounds good." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it does sound good."
She probably shouldn't listen to this one. I'm surprised my mom tolerates it. The crazy shit we say sometimes.
So am I, to be honest. I kind of figured by now you'd be getting phone calls. You're like, you can't hang out with these people.
That's not cool, man.
Steve's the worst.
So I have a question for everyone here. The 1990s, they were a good time, right?
Oh, so good. Absolutely. No, I mean that sincerely as well as satirically. Like, I loved the 90s.
Pappy, how old were you in 1994?
Yeah, I was 4 in 1994.
Oh my God.
I've only lived in the 90s and on. So
you don't remember the 80s because you weren't there?
No, the 80s were like more like my co-host Josh's time. They're significantly older than I am.
I was just trying to bait you into making fun of Josh's age, and it worked. That's awesome.
Yeah. Significantly older, yeah.
So now if you know the 80s, you're old.
It's true. Man. I am a crotchety old pisser.
Yeah, because we remember the 80s.
So we're here to review Little Giants, which is a movie that came out in 1994, which is when Pappy was only 4 years young. But before we talk about this movie, I wanted to ask you guys, because there was a lot of movies like this in the 90s. There was like a bunch of kids' sports movies. There was like, I don't know why, there was a bunch of them in a row, it seemed like, maybe starting with Mighty Ducks, I want to say, but I'm not entirely sure. But I wanted to ask you guys one at a time, starting with Alan. What's your favorite like 90s sports movie of this era?
My favorite 90s sports movie of this era, I'm going to have to go with Waterboy.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
No.
Waterboy was hilarious. You know, you guys don't like Waterboy?
No, it's fine. Make your case.
No, that was like, I mean, it's probably ridiculous now. It was ridiculous at the time. But Adam Sandler is one of his better movies, I thought. Especially at the time. Now it's probably dated, but Waterboy was pretty funny.
It was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
It's a low watermark, but it was
Alan,
funny.
you're a fucking madman. I don't understand you at all. On any level,
you guys are
seriously.
not Waterboy fans.
Oh.
Pappy, what's your favorite 90s sports kids movie?
Kids movie. Well, I was going to say 90s sports movie. I'll have to go with Rudy, just because I grew up in that area and grew up a fan of that Notre Dame football team. But I like Mighty Ducks quite a bit. Gordon Bombay. That's the kind of cheese that I like. I feel like Little Giants is kind of like a copy of a copy of a copy of what those movies were. And like, for me, like growing up, I spent a lot of time in Minnesota too. So Mighty Ducks was always a good one for me.
I didn't realize Pappy was a Notre Dame fan. I happen to be a huge Trojans fan. I'm not even sure we can do this.
No.
Like a third of my family are USC grads. We may not be able to finish the podcast. I'm sorry. Why?
I don't know what any of this means.
USC and Notre Dame are massive rivals in football and some other sports as well. Yeah.
Well, Steve, speaking of sports, 90s kids sports movies, what do you got?
The fact that I grew up playing hockey lent me to have a big soft spot for the Mighty Duck movies. But based on the actual quality of the productions, Sandlot's the best for me. I think as a movie, it's just the best one.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Sandlot's like the upper echelon of these kids' movies, and it's got the best jokes.
Right. And I think it's the most endearing. It's the only one now I can sit through without saying this is stupid, like every minute and a half.
Did you say
Does Angels in the Outfield hold up? I haven't seen Angels in the Outfield since I was a wee lad.
I don't have a lot of great things to say about it, but opinions will differ.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. So
yeah.
we were actually going to talk about this, and now's a good time. We were kind of talking about which of these types of movies to cover on this episode, and somehow we all landed on Little Giants. But I wanted to do Angels in the Outfield. So just tell us, Steve, what the fuck is your problem with Angels in the Outfield?
Oh, damn, dude. He's calling
You know what?
you
After
out.
having rewatched Little Giants, it may have actually been better for fodder, but it's just stupid. It's just, even as a kid, I remember seeing it in theater, being this world full of adults. They're like, oh yeah, this is what 12-year-old or however old he is going to like play on a professional team. Which one was the other one where he could pitch?
It's not even the same movie. That's the little, like Rookie
That's
of the
Rookie
Year.
of the Year.
Oh, that's the one I was
this
thinking
one
of.
was, oh no, this one was, yeah, with all the actual Angels. That one's not any better.
That's Christopher Lloyd, dude. Doc Brown.
No, you know what? We had this discussion the other day, and Christopher Lloyd has not been in that many really good movies, unfortunately.
You're right. I can't say that. I can't argue that because you're right. I even said that.
Right.
But I'll say, all right, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Good actor, right? He's the little kid in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in general. But look, I mean, I was trying to defend Charles Dance, and you threw that stupid Dracula movie in my face. So there you go.
Oh, Dracula Untold?
All right, fine. We got a guest, so it's no longer a 2 versus 1. The odds have evened up. Pappy, Charles Dance. He sucks, right?
Yeah, he sucks.
Oh, you guys are terrible.
Oh, God. All right, what do we got? We're going to be talking about Little Giants, like I mentioned before. It's directed by a guy called Dwayne Dunham. He directed a few other similar movies of the 90s, like he did Halloween Town, which is like a Disney kids movie, which I have a lot of fondness for.
Which one was that?
You know, Pappy, you know Halloween Town, right?
I kind of remember that. I remember more Double Teamed, the basketball one, which was another 90s Disney Channel original movie.
Both of those movies appeared on the Disney Channel, that's right, in the 90s, so they were pretty good. This guy also actually was an editor on Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
He did some work on the Clone Wars TV show as well. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah? What are your thoughts on Clone Wars?
It's not my favorite Star Wars thing, but it's fun. It's fun. I think it was sort of aimed at an audience younger than me.
Yeah, I have never really given it a chance.
Is Little Giants the last movie this guy directed?
I think so.
Or has he done like other stuff?
I thought he kind of fell off after.
I think it was pretty much all TV.
Yeah, he went to TV.
He did. What was it? One. I think the Clone Wars may have been it. Like did a few other things, TV movies stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's go through our experience with the movie. Alan, I'm going to assume you've never seen it until today.
I never saw it. I don't even remember anything about it until today.
Okay. So how about this? Let's give you a better question. Rick Moranis. Favorite Rick Moranis movie?
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Classic.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's a good one.
Steve, what's your experience with Little Giants?
I saw it in a theater as an 11-year-old. Or 10-year-old. Yeah, 10-year-old. I kind of liked it at the time. It wasn't like a big deal for me, nor did I really dislike it. It was just kind of a movie I saw. I thought was kind of fun. And that was about it. I like Rick Moranis.
Well, didn't you hold some grudge against some kid in this movie?
Sort of, yeah. There's one kid who's on the Cowboys who only really appears in one scene with 2 other kids that are from the Cowboys that when he was in school with me for a year and we just did not we just did not get along, and he had parts like this in 2 or 3 other things. I think he was in one other movie like with Patrick Swayze, but not as a main character, like as a supporting kid that's on screen for like 2 minutes. He was on TV a couple of times, and he just thought he was like the biggest shit in the world. He was convinced that he was like Denzel Washington's successor. He's like, I'm going to be so famous. You guys have no idea. We're like 11 at this point. You know?
It's the kid who played Briggs, right?
Is Briggs that character's name?
I think so. The actor's name is Ricky Deshaun Collins.
Not
Collins him out.
Yeah, maybe that was him. Like, I mean, I went to school with this kid for a year in 6th grade and then never saw him again.
Yeah, but
like my only real memories are just not getting along. But
If it's this kid, he was also in the movie Jack.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
And
I
he
know
was in a couple episodes of TNG, Star Trek.
Yeah, I think that's probably because I know he'd been in a few other things. Yeah.
And you said 11. They're supposed to be like around 11 in this movie?
Yeah, we would have
They're
been
like
because
10, 11?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Pappy, what's your experience? Did you see it in theaters in 1994 when you were 4 years old?
No, so I had two sides of the family, like a lot of kids do. On my dad's side, I was the oldest, so I got to do like what I wanted to do. So it was mostly like Mario and Nintendo and stuff. But on my mom's side, I was like the youngest. I had a bunch of like older boy cousins, so we watched a lot of these movies. And even back then, like this felt like second tier to like Big Green and Sandlot, like Steve mentioned. But it was in the rotation. And then I watched it like a couple years ago out of nostalgia and was pretty disappointed, and watched it again for this podcast, was even more disappointed this time around.
So you do think that the Big Green is above this one in the tier of 90s sports movies?
I learned my lesson. I will keep Big Green locked in the nostalgia vault where it's elevated, and I don't need to ever open it up again.
Good idea.
Oh, God, man.
So it can always be good as you last remember it.
I
It's the
don't even remember
Citizen
liking it
Kane
as a
of
kid.
soccer movies from the 90s for me. So
What else is there?
with the
I
go?
mean,
what was that?
Shaolin Soccer or whatever?
Shaolin Soccer was fun. What was that one called with Jonathan Brandis and Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh, Ladybugs.
Ladybugs. There you go.
I remember that one. That one was cool.
Yeah.
I really liked. Oh, I didn't get a chance to answer myself. I really liked Cool Runnings. Was my favorite of the the.
I didn't
90s.
even really think about that, but yeah.
Yeah, it didn't star kids, but it was still for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. With John Candy. Anything with John Candy in it. Even his bad stuff's kind of endearing.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Little Giants as a kid on VHS. I think we got it as soon as it came out to VHS. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. But I distinctly remember the VHS intro, since it's a Warner Brothers film. It starts with a Warner Brothers cartoon. Who here remembers that shit?
Absolutely.
Wait,
Absolutely.
which cartoon?
Do you remember which cartoon it is?
It was a weird one. What was the title of it?
It's called Michigan J. Frog.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, absolutely.
So the beginning of this, actually, there's like a 5-minute segment of just the cartoon of you guys know the Warner Brothers dancing frog?
Yeah.
Like the one
Yeah.
guy finds him.
Yeah.
And then
my baby. Hello,
my darling. Right, yeah. There you go.
there he is, Michigan, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I remember that, and I vaguely remember some other commercials that were at the beginning of this VHS. It's so weird when I think of these movies. I think of all the shit I had to fast forward through.
Did you ever have the Roger Rabbit VHS that had the bonus Baby Herman cartoon on it?
No.
It's awesome. I think it's included in some of the newer disc sets as well.
All right, Steve, I got to ask. Can you get it on Laserdisc?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, my
Yeah. Little Giants is not in my Laserdisc collection.
Oh, dude, get on it.
No, Roger Rabbit is.
Dude, get on eBay. What are you doing?
Did it come with any special features on Laserdisc or any?
I think, no, it's probably
the same thing?
To my knowledge, a pretty basic release. It was mostly just the movie and I think maybe a trailer. Would have been it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Little Giants. Let's go right into the film where it starts. I'd like Pappy to kick it off, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it starts off with a flashback in the 60s, and we see young Rick Moranis, young Danny O'Shea, and young Ed O'Neill, Kevin O'Shea, and they're walking down the street getting ready to play football. And you kind of get the dynamic of the brothers pretty early on. Kevin's fairly dismissive of young Danny, and I thought that the casting for these kids was pretty good. It was pretty spot on.
Yeah, me too.
But they go to play football, and basically Danny O'Shea is not picked, and Kevin, even though he doesn't pick him, he says someday we'll run this town. And there's a shot of the water tower, and then it fast forwards from there.
We're going to run this town, kid. We're going to be in charge. And they start the first criminal organization in Urbania.
Yeah.
Urbania, Ohio.
That's right. Now, Alan, do you want to tell us about 30 years later? What do we get to see these guys doing?
So, crap, now I just saw this. So, Ed O'Neill is a car salesman, or he has his own Chevy car lot, but the whole thing with him is he's the most famous person in town because he's the pride of the town, that he was a Heisman winner, he won some collegiate title, he won the high school title, and he's just riding on this whole fame that he was the best football player ever.
Yeah. He didn't play in the NFL, though, right?
No, well, they didn't say that, but
I found that really strange because they go name brand NFL a couple times, with John Madden and the players and the team names, but there's no mention of his career. I imagine he has terrible CTE and was knocked out
There was
violently early.
There was even a tie-in at one point a couple of years later, a year later, where the Giants, for a game or two at least, wore red jerseys like the ones the kids had in the movie. But that Ed O'Neill in real life had been a state high school champion football player. Honest to God.
Polk High?
I played high school football. 4 touchdowns in one game.
No, well, in one of his other incarnations, it's weird how many times he's played a football champion when he was a state football champion in high school. He actually got a football scholarship to somewhere, I don't remember what university, and then was like almost in the Steelers. He almost got drafted to the Steelers.
The actor.
Yeah, the actor.
Not Al Bundy.
Not Al Bundy,
Ed
yeah.
O'Neill?
Yeah, the real him got a scholarship to play football at university and then was within like arm's reach of being on the Steelers, and something happened. He didn't make it.
No shit.
Yeah, swear to God.
I don't know the exact Gracie, but if you know anything like about jiu-jitsu, there's the Gracie family. And Ed O'Neill has trained under one of them, and he's like a legitimate like black belt in jiu-jitsu.
So Ed O'Neill is a badass that was a football player that almost played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right.
Now he's on Modern Family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's a legit black belt in jiu-jitsu.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's fuck. We were talking about Dolph Lundgren, who Johnny Mnemonic. That dude's got like a PhD and like 2 black belts, and yeah, it's nuts.
Well, 30 years later, we were talking about that. We got Ed O'Neill, who's now training a Pee Wee football team for the town Urbania. So it kind of starts off with like tryouts with all the kids trying out. I think it's very clear who's like gonna make it and who's not. You got like all the athlete kids, and then you got all the fucking random kids that are like, I don't know. In my experience, these kids would not have been wanting to play. I was one of these kids, so I feel okay talking about this. These kids would not have wanted to fucking play football. I'll tell you, man. What do you think of the tryouts, Steve?
You get to meet a variety of pretty typical 90s movie kid characters. There's always one who's kind of a super weakling, nerdy kid. There's another one who's a brainy kid. There's a third one who's so fat he can barely move around, and he's constantly farting at everybody. Gas man, which is a recurring theme throughout the remainder of the movie, is this kid passing gas. And then you get your little bit of introduction to the icebox, Becky.
Oh, icebox.
And it's pretty typical fare for a 90s kids movie. It's just like, okay, here's the part where we see that these kids are different from the others, and they're not going to make the team.
No, definitely not.
And Becky gets treated a little unfairly.
What do you think about Icebox, Pappy?
I mean, she's clearly the best. She's the one who's out there dominating. It's a little weird for me because, like, I feel like Ed O'Neill's character, I feel like this movie's trying to teach too many lessons, and the fact that he happens to be misogynistic and obsessed with winning kind of is conflicting for me. Like, I don't understand why he wouldn't just pick his niece, who's clearly one of the best. But the line, not to diverge too much, but the line, like, treating your helmet like a lunchbox, that was one that I clearly and distinctly remembered from my childhood.
Where the kid has like sandwich and Cheetos and probably like a Gatorade in his helmet.
Right.
Yeah. Coach is a vampire.
Right. I mean, it's the other tropey thing. You go all the way back to Chunk in the Goonies. He's got the Baby Ruths, like...
Hey, the Baby Ruths save him, okay?
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, how else are you going to get away from
Sloth?
From Sloth, that's right.
I mean, the kid, he has Cheetos in his helmet. He has a sandwich.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right,
Yeah.
and they take off his helmet because they think he's bleeding, but it's a jelly. Great gag, right? But they make fun of him because he eats a certain type of Cheetos, which just ain't cool, He eats puffed Cheetos. So, like, Ed O'Neill's like, oh, you're a wimp because you don't eat crunchy Cheetos. And they don't even mention Flamin' Hot.
You'll never get anywhere treating your helmet like a lunchbox, son. What is that?
Cheetos.
Crunchy or puffed?
Puffed.
Wimp. All right.
The funny thing is, too, is like it was around this point where I think that same kid, when he doesn't make the team, he drops his Reese's Pieces and they fall on top of his Reeboks. And I'm like, how much product placement can this have? It's like a Spielberg movie that's shitty. And it turns out that like Steven Spielberg was involved in the production of this movie. Like he was a producer, which kind of made a lot of sense once I heard that.
He was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I think it's like one of the IMDb facts, but he was watching a Pee Wee football commercial and called the director, I think, Steve, and said, make this movie. I want this to be my Home Alone or something.
It's something like that. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know any different.
Crazy.
Like,
I made a note here about how all the other kids start teasing Icebox because she's the girl, and they say that she has to pee standing up. And I thought that was really weird for like a kids movie. I mean, that didn't stand out to anyone else. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
I'm so like immune to it because it was so like I've seen this movie so many times.
okay, I was like, just a random note I made. I was like, that's weird that they put that in there.
Yeah, it is, I guess. I mean,
that probably is the kind of scene some crazy person would pick out and then write an article for Slate saying this movie is problematic.
To ban this movie.
Right.
Little Giants is not the good time you remembered.
Little Giants, big problems.
No, that's a show on TLC.
Well, Ed O'Neill's character is like a misogynistic, like borderline psychopath.
I mean, I remember him being a lot worse. When I rewatched it, I was like, he's not as bad as I remember. I mean, obviously he is kind of shitty sometimes, but I remember him being like a lot worse.
I agree with you, but at the same time, there were a couple of moments where I had the reverse realization, which is like, in this moment, he's actually being way sleazier than I realized.
I'm kind of with Steve. I mean, I only saw it one time today, but I'm with Steve on that. I thought he was sleazier than they made him to be.
Well,
I got that vibe.
You have his assistant coach Butts, who's just like way over the top, and is like talking about he would drown these children if they were his or something like that. Like
I love that part.
That moment, that's the moment that I found kind of shocking. Like, I kind of can't believe that they'd have him. Like, he pulls up and he's right there in front of these like 10 to 12-year-old kids, and he's like, oh yeah, if these fuck ups were my kids, I'd drown them. Like,
No, he paints a colorful analogy. So he's like, if I was a hen, right? And then these were my little chicks.
I'd drown
Then
them.
I'd murder them.
You're just gonna embarrass yourself with them little dirt balls. Hell, if I was a mama hen and they was my chicks, I'd lead them to water and let them drown.
And
Okay, well, that's fine.
the whole thing is about pee-wee football. Not like high school football, not college football, not even professional football. It's fucking pee-wee football.
The stakes are high, bro. Don't you know?
This only thing this town seems to care about. Like, the whole town is obsessed with the pee-wee football town champions.
I mean, you're right, because I'm going to expand on that topic in just a sec. So the bad kids, well, the kind of dorky kids and Becky, they don't make the team, so they're all kind of like sad. Mm-hmm. But they decide to form their own team, obviously, a little bit later. And how Kevin O'Shea finds out is from the goddamn mayor. The fucking mayor of the town approaches and is like, so, there's going to be another football team. Oh, we can't have that in this town. You guys remember that shit?
This mayor is like the Varys of Ohio. He's like, my little birds told me that there's a new football team being formed. It's like, it's literally just a children's rumor at this point. How did it make the leap to the mayor of the city?
You know,
he comes into the bar to interrupt Kevin O'Shea, and he makes some reference. He's like, "Oh, and I'm in some shit," or he says something like, He says something like that. I forget what he says.
So we got a turd in the punch bowl.
Yeah.
But he's like, we need to talk like now. Over this like pee-wee football team that somehow he heard about. Who told him about this?
Happy, is it your contention then that this mayor is a eunuch?
Very well could be. I have no evidence of the contrary.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Kevin hears this from the fucking mayor. Like that's the mayor's most important agenda. This whole town is to tell him that there's another football team being formed. He has nothing better to do as mayor.
I guess. I mean, when they decide, or when they say that they're going to form the team, it's actually the scene right before. I want to touch on briefly, because I'm going to call them the nerdy kids, because that's what they are. The nerdy kids, the Little Giants kids, they have like their own clubhouse, which is pretty fucking badass. Like, they got all kinds of cool shit in here. Did you guys like pause it to try to like look around to see what's going on?
No, I didn't really pause it.
No? Okay, that's just me. Fine. They had a sweet clubhouse, but the bully kids come and they try to like make fun of him. Now, one of your friends,
Yeah, that was the scene he was in.
Okay, yeah, that kid was Briggs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But, Becky comes and I guess kicks their asses in a way.
Oh, yeah, she sort of does.
That was also a very Spielbergian scene, like with the bikes and the chase and even the jump at the end. It felt very, very much like a E.T. type thing.
With the go-kart, and she's like chasing him down, trying to kill him. Go-kart homicide.
Carticide.
Yeah. I made a note real quick, the scene before that. I think it's Briggs. When he doesn't get picked, I made a note because he's upset and he says,
There goes my shot at the pros. I'm going to have to be a senator.
Oh, Hanen?
yeah, like he didn't get on this Pee Wee football team, so now he's not going to be a pro. And his response to that is now he has to be a senator.
Now I have to be a senator.
Like what? Like what?
Either way, this kid's going places, right? All right, so Danny O'Shea is Becky's dad, right? Now, it's just those two. And Becky kind of springs on him that they're going to start their own team. And that's when the mayor finds out. And then Kevin and Danny have a little bit of a confrontation. Pappy, how would you describe the relationship between Danny and Kevin?
Yeah, as adults, it's very much the same as we saw in that flashback in the 1960s. Kevin's very dismissive of Danny. Danny is very much oriented towards the children's feelings. I think as he's driving a Corvette, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah, a C4.
As he pulls away in his Corvette, Danny's like you hurt their feelings. You hurt their feelings. And there's this like weird moment of editing where like Kevin like says like back-to-back things or something like, I knew you'd see it my way. Like, if you rewatch that, it's like really weirdly cut, but Kevin doesn't really seem to care about it, which we kind of talked about this earlier. Everyone around Kevin, like his children and his wife and everyone but Butts is like, hey, what you did to Becky is pretty messed up. He's like kind of on an island on this one.
I mean, there's got to be a rule, right? I mean, or maybe not because she's on the other team. Is there supposed to be like a rule or is it just because he doesn't like her?
I think he just doesn't like,
he
thinks women should be cheerleaders.
Yeah.
He's just an asshole. And it goes back to this whole town and this whole universe is just obsessed with football, Pee Wee football. That's all it revolves around. Like no one.
It's very much like the real world then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Urbana, Ohio, which I don't think is a real place, but it sounds like the kind of place where they've got like a McDonald's and Pee Wee football. So.
Are you guys into football? You guys watch football?
I watched a tremendous amount of football growing up. I'm not as regular viewer now, but NCAA and pro football I still like. Yeah.
I like it. I'll watch it. I sometimes follow it, but I'm not the biggest fan.
I like to gamble on college football, and it absolutely incensed me when the old men in the diner are writing the odds, and they write Cowboys plus 40, which would mean that not only if you bet on the Cowboys, that would mean that they're like 40-point underdogs when you write it that way.
Right.
The team that's favored should be minus 40. I got so pissed. I paused it. I was like, what? I tried to like figure out what they meant by that.
That seems like a pretty big oversight. Like no one could have told them, hey, that's not how like odds work.
That's not how gambling works.
Yeah.
They
like filmed that and put it in the movie. No one said anything.
I have no idea. Yeah.
That's a big ass oversight.
Pappy, are you into football? You strike me as a guy that watches the NFL.
I hate the NFL, honestly. And like I can
My bad.
barely watch college football anymore. Like it makes me I feel bad watching football. It feels like a really violent thing I shouldn't be into anymore. But I do like to gamble a little bit on Saturdays in the fall.
Well, the kids are forming their own team, and they have one of the more memorable scenes where they go on their little like recruitment, right? So they start walking down the train tracks, and they just basically like find a bunch of kids to join their team. They get like the kid who's kicking the balls. Oh, wait, let me rephrase that. They got a kid who is kicking orange rubber balls, and they recruit him to be their kicker. They got the smart kid that wears a suit for some reason. He's going to be on their team, but he's not going to play. He's going to like write random plays with weird names.
He's a professional child.
Yeah, they got a professional child. They got a fucking little fucking idiot kid that is on a horse.
Oh, get a little cowboy kid.
That kid is like the most pointless fucking kid.
He's like a short bus kid.
They also got the kid that his dad doesn't like spend time with him.
Oh yeah, the kid whose dad doesn't love him.
Yeah, his dad like leaves and the kid's all sad.
And the kid who can't catch and thinks it's because his hands are stupid.
So they're like forming the group of misfits.
Right.
Yeah. This
Or
is
they're
like the building
he seems
scene.
to treat his hands as if they're sentient apart from his brain.
For sure.
Come on, hands.
Right?
I mean, come on.
Why are
it's
you
all
doing this
nothing.
to me, hands?
Yeah.
Pappy, do any of these kids stand out to you? Any of them more memorable than others?
The kid on the horse who Rick Moranis like convinces to play football.
You ever played football?
No,
Do you like football?
no,
You want to play football?
no.
Great, you can be on our team.
He ended up playing a character named Stinky in a cartoon called Hey Arnold on
Oh, yeah.
Nickelodeon.
Oh, no
Yeah.
way. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so he went on to have some kind of a career. But I do like the boy who's kicking and gets nothing but glass, mostly because he later appears in blackface in the film, which is pretty shocking.
I like the kid, the nerdy kid, because he, like Corey said, he had a suit on for some reason, and he had like his setup was like a TV with like a dot matrix printer on top. He was like printing out the plays.
Yeah.
See, he's a business savvy kid. They just want you to see like, oh, this kid's pro. He's intelligent. He's like clearly he's gonna be a businessman when he
he's the
grows up.
smart one on the team.
I mean, he plays chess with himself. But not only does he play chess with himself, he plays speed chess with himself.
That sounds like a euphemism.
11-year-olds, dude.
Yeah.
Right? Don't worry about it, Mom. I'm just playing chess with myself.
None of that, okay? These are children. You were talking about the kicker kid. His name is Marcus in the movie. I feel like they got kind of lazy with some of these characters because that kid's real name is Marcus. The kid, Johnny, whose dad doesn't love him, his real name is John. So, like,
They were probably just like, look, cast some kids and we'll come up with their character names afterward. Like, what's your name?
Did they run out of I don't get that. That always strikes me as weird. Like, I want to know the decision-making process when someone just gets their real name.
Speaking of the kid whose dad is never there, is that not the most unnecessary subplot of the whole film that ends up being pivotal to the final football game?
I was just gonna say that's very necessary at the end.
They wanted like that group of kids to identify with the movie, Pappy. You got to get those kids just like dads are too busy with business.
On that same note, that seemed to be like a big thing in the 90s too.
Oh,
Where,
yeah.
like parents were like
So
super
much.
busy and like they couldn't get to the games. Like they threw it right here in this movie.
Oh, yeah. The
Yeah.
dad's like in a suit. He's got like a suitcase. He's looking at his watch. He's like out the door on a cell phone. He's like, I gotta go. I got an appointment at 4:30.
See you later, whatever your name is.
That's the only member of Johnny's family that we see. So for all we know, he's like home aloneing it there in that house by himself as his dad goes on these important business trips.
His dad's just working a lot to support him. He's a single father.
Kid hasn't eaten in 3 days because he doesn't know how to cook.
But he joined the football team, so now he has a family.
Now, after they recruit everyone, one kid kind of joins last minute. This kid in the movie, his name's Jake. He's the super fragile kid, which, I mean, they already have a pretty fragile kid, but they got like a even more fragile kid. What's the story with him and his mom, Steve?
His mother's like a helicopter mom. I guess she says that the kid was born like weighing like a pound and something. He had to be incubated forever. And she wants him to go play football, but like everything's dangerous to him. It sounds like a breeze would kill this kid. You understand what football is?
I made a note that like why she explained so much about this. Like, She just went on for like a couple of minutes. I'm like, what is this scene?
Yeah.
I won't name anyone, but my brother went to school with someone whose mother would wear a neck brace while driving the car, but at no other time. She did not have a neck injury. She was just convinced that it was keeping her from getting one. And yeah, exactly. So like, it seems like that's like, oh, it's her. It's like one of these psycho moms. It's like, you're weird. Your kid's weird because you're weird. Like,
Well, I mean, this kid shows up and he's like, yeah, my shrink said I need to get out more, so I'm here to play football.
oh, that's what it is. Yeah, because the shrink told her I need to get out more. So her pick was football. It's like, you could have had him like take up bird watching and drop him at a botanical garden, but instead you decided to do something where he's going to get hit.
And he's like super scrawny. He has glasses. He's like a total dweeb.
He blows CGI snot bubbles.
That was weird. Yeah.
That was rubber cement, Corey. Come on.
Oh, gross. Well, the kids start training, right? Because they're going to be a football team now. So we have our very typical 90s out-of-shape kids trying to do training shit that they can't possibly do.
Oh, the montage where like they throw something and they miss, and the one kid doesn't catch and he gets mad at his hands.
Yeah.
And he kicks the other kid in the nuts, or they everything they do they like mess up.
There's a lot of fart jokes going on at this point, isn't there?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, I was going to let some of them slide, but at this point I had to write them in my notes. I was like, okay, training with fart jokes.
This is also with the monkey bars, right? Where there's this big kid pile up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt bad for the lunchbox kid who we talked about earlier, because like during that part, like there's a pretty nice score to this movie, and all the other kids get this little trumpet theme as they're going across the monkey bars, and that kid gets on the monkey bars and they fucking play a tuba for him as he crashes down, and the little kid's like, oh, that's a little mean-spirited movie.
The tuba is such a cruel instrument. I mean,
yeah, I guess.
Just like implies elephants, you know.
Yeah.
we also get our final key member of the team. It cuts to the kids at the grocery store, and there's a little blonde boy in there, and he's chucking rolls of toilet paper.
This whole scene was weird.
Tell us, Alan.
Well, let's hold off on chucking toilet paper, because when she's walking through the store, she's like just eating like a box of like powdered donuts. And it's like, yo, did you pay for that? Or
Oh,
like,
I thought she was doing a
can't-
ton of cocaine.
She's like stuffing her face. She's going like crazy style.
Yo, you have to buy that or like check out. She's just walking to the store, just eating food.
Does that shit annoy you? I see that shit sometimes. I'm like, dude,
Oh, I
don't
hate
just
that.
wait. Like,
There's a term they call it grazing, because if you just like walk around and eat.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, but it's stupid.
It's like the kind of thing you see somebody doing at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning in a Ralph's. It's like they've been drinking all night. Now they're walking around like stuffing their face with powdered donuts, like looking for other shit to take home.
Yeah, it's like what? But as she's like eating the donuts that she probably didn't pay for, she sees, like Corey mentioned, the kid in the next aisle, and he's hurling toilet paper rolls into a shopping cart, but he's like making each one. So he's like doing these perfect throws with toilet paper rolls, which is weird. Why is he throwing toilet paper rolls in the middle of the store?
Maybe he heard random kids are like recruiting for a football team, so he's just like, all right, everywhere I go, I'm doing football shit.
People have to see me with the toilet paper rolls. That's how I get in.
Where are the store employees? Where are like other adults? Like, his kid's just throwing toilet paper rolls in the middle of a grocery store?
So that kid is Devon Sawa. Do you know Devon Sawa? You remember?
I know he was Casper at the end
Yeah.
when Casper became a real boy,
That's
briefly.
right. Yeah, he was also in a movie with Matthew Lillard called SLC Punk. It's a really good one.
He was an SLC punk?
Yeah, he's the kid that gets dosed with the acid in his pocket.
Oh, yeah, he gets perma-fried.
Yeah, and then somehow reappears in the weird sequel, which did not have Matthew Lillard in it. But yeah, he's also in the original Final Destination, so he's been in some stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about Junior Floyd, Pap?
He's like 15, right? Like he's way in real
Yeah.
life. Yeah. It's he's much taller than the other kids. And I found it strange that like, I mean, this is a thing that you see a lot, right? I think it happens in the Mighty Ducks and a couple of these kids movies where a ringer is brought in halfway through the movie. This movie goes for that subplot twice to I guess fill in runtime, but one time Ed O'Neill's real interested in the kid Spike, and he doesn't really seem to care much about Junior. Other than just kind of noticing him, he's playing for the wrong team, and he's like done with it.
And that Spike kid looks like he's 16 or 17.
Oh, Spike, who always refers to himself in third person.
Yeah, and what don't they say? He's like 10. He's the biggest 10-year-old in the county or some shit like that, and they get there. It's like this kid should have a driver's license,
Spike is a fucking lunatic.
right?
So
His
his
lunatic
dad tells
dad.
him that like this kid was like raised on football, and he like massages him with milk or something.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on in that family?
Yeah, his like insane father who's completely obsessed with football and has raised this kid to only think and live and breathe football.
Look at the boy. He was bred for football glory. Hey, first skin he ever touched was a pigskin. Pushing a football across the living room floor with his head when he was 4 months old. Did his first pull-up when he was 18 months. Give me 10! Runs a 40 and 6'5" flat. Bench presses twice his own weight. Won the 8-year-old division of the pass, punt, and run when he was 5 years old. Oh, Shay, I've been cultivating him. Grooming him. Every night, before he goes to bed, I massage his hamstrings with evaporated milk.
No woman living in the house, huh? There's a surprise.
Well, this kid can carry a whole refrigerator by himself, and he wears like a crop top, 80s style.
You got to show off the just lower belly area. It's a very manly look. Definitely doesn't look like a crop top on a girl.
15-year-old has abs or whatever. Look how strong he is.
Right? It's a weird one. It's like if it's hot enough that you want that exposed, then like maybe don't wear a shirt at all. It's like people that'll go out in cold weather wearing shorts and a hoodie. It's like, look, are you cold or not? Like, either take the hoodie off or put long pants on. This makes no sense.
Oh my god! Yes,
The whole Spike subplot. Steve, have you ever heard of Todd Marinovich, who played for USC?
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard of
so-
that guy.
Yeah, there's like a 30 for 30 on him. Like, long story short, like it was kind of like the real life Spike. Like his dad trained him to be a football player, like went all out. He was a pretty successful college player. Then I think he just kind of like got into drugs and got burned out in the NFL and totally crashed and burned. I haven't seen that 30 for 30 in a while, but I was wondering if that was like somehow Spike was somehow based on that, because I think the timing lines up.
Yeah, you're right. I was so little at the time. I don't remember much about the guy, but that's an interesting observation. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about that guy, but that's basically it. It's like exactly like Spike, like because his father was like super obsessed, and he was always raised to play football. He played for USC, and then he did pretty well, but then he got into drugs and alcohol, and he's been arrested like dozens of times since then. And he's still all fucked up now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're obsessed with Pee Wee football.
No, so it doesn't turn out like this movie. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, now the kids have they got Junior, who's actually like a good quarterback, right? And they're doing their practicing, but things kind of start to get weird with like Becky and Junior, because she's into him, right?
Yeah.
Steve, can you tell us about what's going on there? I mean, she kind of has like a few scenes where she's kind of like wavering as far as like where to go.
Yeah, well, like, so you get told throughout the film that her mother just kind of left at some point, decided she wasn't into it and disappeared. And so she's been getting raised by her dad, and her dad didn't really know how to do girly stuff with her, so he kind of encouraged the football bit and gave her the nickname Icebox, and she's kind of a tomboy as the result of it, and not in a bad way, but now she's interested in this boy, and he's clearly more interested in the girly girls, one of whom is Becky's cousin, Ed O'Neill's eldest daughter. And she goes through kind of an identity crisis where it's like, who am I? You know, am I really this me because my father made me this way? Or am I this me because this is who I really am? And like, would I rather be one of those girly girls? Like, it's kind of a teenage moment.
Yeah. I think Rick Moranis, I mean, you talked about this before we even reviewed it. He's one of the highlights for sure.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good dad. When I see him parenting, I'm like, I'm a shitty parent. I need to be like Rick Moranis, dude. Like,
absolutely.
I made a note here that when they start practicing and they're playing, there's a scene where Junior slaps her butt. Did anyone notice that?
She kind of likes it.
That was like, okay, that's...
Well, like, let's be honest
okay.
here. I mean, she wants the D, right?
Reason number 2, Little Giants is problematic.
Yeah.
And by D, I mean a date with Junior.
You guys are a pretty good concern.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, they're kids, that's weird.
I don't think we talked about it at all. Like, one of the weird things about Junior is he's named Junior, but his dad's not a figure in the film in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, Rick Moranis likes his mom and has since the late 60s.
Right.
And how does that play out? Like, if Rick Moranis and her get married,
Exactly.
then Junior and Becky definitely can't date, right?
Then they're making a video for X-Hamster in a few years.
Exactly what I was going to say. It ends up becoming some deep porn web thing, like with the taboo label attached to it. Like,
Shout out to Spider-Man 3 where they did the same thing with Edward Brock Jr.
oh my God.
There was no father figure, it was just
Right.
Junior for some reason.
It's me, Eddie Brock Jr. I'm down with most of what you're doing, but could you kill this guy? Thanks.
And Steve, you said Becky, her nickname is Icebox in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Do we know why that is?
They never really tell you. The only thing I can think of that ever made sense to me is Icebox was a kind of generic way of referring to a large fridge and freezer combo, like during an icebox literally was the freezer portion. Old school freezers didn't have compressors that would keep them cold. You literally had to keep a block of ice in it. And they were these big, huge, heavy cast iron things, and it was like an immovable object. And it's the kind of nickname you might give to a lineman who like can get hit and not fall down.
Yeah, a
It's
lineman
big,
who weighs
immovable.
like 350 pounds.
Yeah.
Not like an 11-year-old girl.
Right. But like other than it being like kind of big and burly football name, which is not real fitting of a 13, 14-year-old girl. Like otherwise no, and they never say.
So Spike calls her ice chest later, and that feels very inappropriate. I'm not sure.
Like an icebox is borderline. I mean, it's like, oh, you're frigid.
There's a lot of like little underlying things with this movie.
I mean, Spike hates her so much. He likes her, doesn't he? I mean, that's what's going on, right?
Yeah, he likes her so much he threatens to like basically murder her.
That seems like the kind of kid who's angry at the fact that he has sexual feelings in the first place. It seems like the kind of kid who like gets horny and then cuts himself.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Spike has
crazier
some
than
very
we thought.
deep problems.
Right? His father's probably giving him some weird ideas, like you got to direct that energy to football and like, yeah.
Fuck the football, son.
Oh, we go some dark places, folks.
Pappy, I wanted to talk about nicknames for a second. We've been wondering, where does your nickname come from?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll tell you guys. So back in college, I was at my friend Bob and Dave's apartment, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and it was one of the first times I had ever used weed, and we were all smoking weed, and I was really, really just high and just not used to like being like that. We were watching the Pauly Shore film Son-in-Law, where there's a Pappy. There's a Pappy character in that, and I turned to my friend Dave. I said, I can't wait till I'm old enough and people call me Pappy. And he looked me right in the eyes and said, it's never too early, Pappy. And somehow that name stuck for years and years and years. So it's a future. I think that might be the last movie we do on spoilers, Son-in-Law, and I'll tell that story again.
Are you going to be like actually old? Like it's going to be like episode 3000 and
It might be, be a true Pappy at that point. Wouldn't be too bad.
that's going to be like when podcasts are beamed directly into your brain.
Yeah, now I really don't know if I want my mom to listen to this episode.
I like that you said you did weed. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So there's a couple scenes that happen while we got our two teams. So there's the Cowboys, which are run by Kevin O'Shea. That's his actually good team. And then Danny O'Shea is, putting together the Giants, which has a bunch of really shitty kids, and Becky and Junior, who are like the two good players. There is a car wash scene. Now, it's the Giants that are putting together the car wash so that they can raise some money to get their uniforms and stuff for their big game.
Yeah, can we talk about why they need the equipment, though? Because there's a practice scene that takes place before this. They were like, one of them's wearing a Darth Vader helmet. Like, one of them's got a construction helmet on. Like, one kid's wearing a fucking cowboy hat. And it's like, you're letting them practice in this? They're hitting each other. Are you not aware that people get concussions doing this? Like, Pee-wee football players have died. Don't let them practice in that. These aren't all your kids.
Some mismatch of just gear, whatever they could fucking find.
Right? These big fat kids got the fucking Darth Vader Halloween helmet on. Like,
that is the best part, the Darth Vader helmet.
fuck.
I love that. But one of the things, I think I've told you guys about this before, that I hate in movies is when there's a car wash scene and that fucking horrendous ear-piercing fucking... Oh my god, I hate that fucking song so much.
But come
I was
on,
literally about to say the opposite. I was like, props to this movie for actually licensing that
No.
song. Like,
No props.
Kind of cool.
what other song are you gonna make about a car wash? It's the only song you could put for that.
It just pisses me off. Like, some shithead wrote that song and was like, all right, I'm going to make this stupid fuck song, and a bunch of movies are going to have a... Like, you can make any random shit like that, like the dishwashing song. I don't know. I don't like it.
I see what you mean.
I watched this movie on Amazon, and if you hit like the up arrow on my TV, it'll tell you like who's in the scene and little facts. And one of the facts for this scene was references car wash, 1976. That was great. Thanks, Amazon.
All right, so we'll make a song called "Working in the Office," and then we'll get rich off
There
it.
it is, dude. There's our hit. All right, let's write it after this episode. And there's another scene where like it's at Kevin O'Shea's house, and he's trying to like get his players ready for like to face off against Becky because she's like so badass. Steve, maybe you can tell us about Kevin's scene at his house, with the cushions.
Oh yeah, he's got his wife holding the cushion, and he's letting the kids like tackle her, And it's like, why is she? You've got an assistant coach who's like a burly big dude. Like, why is your wife the person who got assigned this job? I don't understand how that happened.
Why is he training his kids in the house?
Right? Yeah, like, why are you
At
in the
night,
house?
like, oh, you've been doing this all day. You can do this tomorrow.
You have
you have to train right now in your house.
I'll do you one better. Why are they on the second floor doing it near a fucking window?
Right? You've got access to real training equipment. You're using a sofa cushion, like that your wife is holding. Like, it's just no. The whole thing. This scene makes no sense and is unnecessary. Nothing.
Kevin directs the kid to tackle the cushion first, and when he falls or he doesn't do it, Kevin gets pissed, and he's like, fine, I'll do it. This guy was straight up gonna like tackle his wife like as hard as he could.
Right?
Like he's an insane individual. He doesn't care. He's like, he just has to show the kids and win. Like, I'm gonna tackle my wife. I'm like,
look, I told you when we started, you can drive yourself to the hospital when we're done. Just shut up.
This is like borderline domestic violence. He's like gonna tackle his wife.
I mean, he was going to drive her through the window, right? That was the plan.
I mean, like,
this was, you know what? I think this was really like a subplot about him trying to collect insurance on his wife's death.
His character's insane.
Right.
There's also the two guys that we talked about briefly that like just hang out in a diner all day, and they're like betting on this game. Did this remind anyone else of like, I don't know the name. I think it's Trading Places, where it's just like two random like way older dudes just like betting on some like innocuous like random thing that's happening.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And then they bet on whether Eddie Murphy's character can handle being wealthy.
Except as
that's what it is.
Yeah.
As Pappy said, they don't know how the odds work.
Yeah. Not only do they not know how odds work, they just seem to be like rooting for chaos. I think they simultaneously call both head coaches and have them dangerously race to go see Spike and like high five about the mischief that they've caused. Like,
why did Rick Moranis' character choose to make that drive in that go-kart thing? Like, he's got to own a car.
Because it's part of his character. He's not like Kevin. He's different, or he's quirky. He drives a go-kart.
And then I'm supposed to believe this like 9 horsepower cart can outrun a Corvette.
Dude, it dodges a train fast and furious.
Dude, that is so fucking irresponsible to have the good guy win by going around down train arms. It's like, oh my god.
He literally risked his life to talk to some kid he heard about to play on his Pee-wee team. Like, just to talk to him.
Hey, but this kid is fucking good, bro.
Yeah, on this like rumor, like, oh, he's the craziest kid we've ever seen.
That kid is a sociopath.
Freaking
it's like the kind of kid who spends his spare time like hurting cats.
He refers to himself only in the third person.
All right.
Spike don't play with girls.
Spike don't play with girls.
She's pretty good, Spike.
Spike don't care. Didn't you hear? Spike don't play with...
Fuck you, you little dipshit.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear?
That actor's name is Sam Horrigan. Did you guys recognize him from anything else at all?
He felt familiar to me, but I couldn't place why.
Yeah.
What else has he been in?
He was in Brink. He was the villain. His name was Val. He's the guy that like gets Brink sponsored and then Brink sells out.
Oh shit, that is the same dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know about Brink, Pappy?
I saw it once when I was a kid, but yeah. Stevie, my friend, was host of Explorers, was way more into Brink than I was.
Oh, dude. I love Brink.
Oh, that's a whole nother episode.
Oh, for sure. I love me some Brink.
Brink's great.
Junior and Becky, they kind of have like a little bit of a moment like leading up to the game where they talk about like one day they're gonna like practice kissing before they get too old, something like that. But at one point Becky says like you have to kiss someone to be able to get a job.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, why?
Hey, we're gonna have to learn how to do it sooner or later. I mean, you know, if you want to have kids and get a job and stuff.
You can have kids without kissing.
Yeah, but you can't get a job.
Well, I'll become a teacher.
Is that the why moment?
That's the why moment for this. Like, why does she think that? Like a 12 to 14-year-old girl should not think you need to be able to kiss to get a job. In fact, that's the kind of thing, if you as a parent heard your daughter say, you got to be real concerned about. Your daughter's going to end up at a lot of casting couches.
Well,
some boss is going to be like, look, yeah, I'll give you a job, but you're going to have to kiss this. You know?
Oh my god.
Well, we've already established this movie is very problematic, so.
Right, yeah, this is reason number 3. It's problematic.
The way the scene ends is Junior goes, "This is weird." And I'm like, yeah, this is weird. He says what the whole audience is like thinking.
Yeah, that whole scene was pretty awkward because like you can obviously tell right away that there's some kind of like feeling, but it's just like awkward for like a couple of minutes. Like, what's the point of that?
And then he seems to think that you can avoid that requirement by becoming a teacher. Just like, wait, why? Why do you think that? Like, teachers can get a job without needing to have to kiss.
When I was really little, people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I was not in a religious family. No. I would say a priest.
It's interesting.
Because I didn't want to have to get married to a girl because I was like, girls are gross.
There was a kid in one of my schools, a few years younger than I am, must have been in the kindergarten class at the time, that would tell anyone who would ask him that he wanted to be a fucking stegosaurus when he grew up. Which I thought was the best answer ever.
It's 2019. You can be whatever you want now. You can be a stegosaurus if he wants to.
Which is a whole separate conversation, because if a kid thinks they can be a stegosaurus, maybe you shouldn't take a 5-year-old's word for it, but, whatever. Anyway.
I see what you're doing there, Steve.
Yeah. I'm going to shut up.
So, the night before the game, Becky decides, look, I can't play football. I need to be, more of a girly girl. She's kind of been, teetering with that thought in her head a little bit because of her interest in junior. She finally decides, you know what? I'm just going to be a cheerleader instead.
Now, wait a minute. We skipped over a very fantastic, integral part of this. One of my favorite parts is the day before, while they're training, you see a tour bus go by, and it stops.
How do I not have notes on that?
Oh, yeah.
It stops, and none other than John Madden gets out, and he proceeds to start writing on this map and just ranting to this kid about how he's lost and how he needs directions to get to some other city.
Canton.
Hey, kid, you got a second? Me and the guys have to get to a banquet in Canton, where the Hall of Fame is, and we took a wrong turn somewhere. Look, we started out here on I-70. We're coming across here. We went up 104, then we took the 49er, then we were going to take a shortcut. So we go 10, 12, 48, huh? And we have to hit Canton, bam, and we have to hit it hard. And I don't know where the heck we are.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why are you asking this kid on the side of the road where to go? He's like, I'm lost. Where do I go?
The city that's many miles from here.
He's asking like a kid from the team.
Kid's like, I can't even get a learner's permit for 5 years. I don't even know how to get to the supermarket.
John Madden's intense. Yeah, you're right. He just grabs this kid by the shoulder. Yeah. He's like, where the fuck is it? And he starts drawing his map.
How do I get here?
We started on the front line. Full spread.
Whoa. Listen, mister, I know how to find home and this place. That's it. And school. Those are the 3 places I know how to get to. Are you looking for one of those?
Doesn't even let the kid get a word in. Just keeps ranting about how he's lost and where to go. And it's like, whoa. And then that somehow transitioned to some of the pros teaching the kids how to play football.
Yeah, so he's got a random assortment of various, I think, retired NFL people on this bus, right?
Some of them were Emmitt Smith was still playing at that point.
He was?
Yeah.
Funny, the only one I remember is Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
So what happens after John Madden and the kids meet each other here, Pappy?
Well, right before that had happened, there was a lot of tension and infighting because Spike had quit the team, and there were a lot of finger pointing. But basically, they all come to learn that football is 80% physical, 40% mental, and this coaching session gets them all fired up, and they're a team again. It's like a 10-minute aside, which, on the surface, I guess can be pretty cute. I guess especially if you're a fan of the NFL. But when you really think about it, this is a movie for really little children, and the point is to basically a commercial for the NFL of really violent sport. It's actually kind of seedy. I don't know. It really rubs me the wrong way, especially when they're using the Madden 95 cartridge to print off the plays and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I didn't like it.
Teaching kids to play.
I misjudged you, Pappy. I'm sorry for saying I thought you liked the NFL.
No, I don't. It's just, there's a lot of bad in the NFL.
I don't really know anything about the NFL. In fact, my knowledge of football is so limited. When they're talking about plays and shit, I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about half the time in this movie.
There was that movie with Will Smith, 5 or 6 years ago now. I think it was called Concussion.
Oh,
Tell the truth.
Yeah, it's about some doctor who discovers CTE. And,
that's right. Yeah, I didn't see that.
All the rumors in it. I don't know for sure, but all the rumors that the NFL paid a lot of money and did a lot of crazy things to basically bury that movie. And you almost never hear of it now. Yeah. So what the hell?
Well, it's probably a pattern to it when players keep shooting themselves in the chest.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I would like to see like where the funding from this comes from, because like we talked about Mighty Ducks, and we talked about Angels in the outfield. It's almost like all of the professional sports leagues felt like they had to have their movie, and all of them contain like name brand teams like from those leagues, like the Los Angeles Angels or the Anaheim Ducks. Like it's very strange.
Please call them the Anaheim Angels.
Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. They haven't played a game, like a home game inside LA County since 1965. Fucking Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. You're in a completely different county.
Steve is an LA elitist.
I am. Yeah. You don't get to call yourself like, God, I hate it.
I'm just a poor Midwestern boy, like waving my arms like angel's wings.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt style.
Yeah.
You got an angel with you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the NFL pros and John Madden teach the kids how to play football, and then they just kind of like leave. They're like,
You're right,
we're done
because
here.
it's like Pappy said, they were fighting. I forgot about this, but like there's a part when they have like a huddle and they all start like getting mad at each other over stupid shit. They're like, hey, how about I get the ball? No, how about I get the ball? And they start like pushing each other, and like one kid loses his birthday invitation. It's pretty fucked up. It's a big deal when you're a little kid. He's like, you can't come to my birthday now.
It's such bullshit too, because they recognize the players' faces. Like, you're telling me this ragtag bunch of nerds like follows the NFL every Sunday and knows like all these players from across the country's face? No way.
I definitely didn't. I still don't actually. So who am I to say? But yeah, I feel like these kids wouldn't like football, you know, because I mentioned this before, but I would have been in this group for sure. I would have been hanging out with the kid with the dot matrix printer, trying to figure out how to like do something on the computer, like how we can play Oregon Trail or something, you know?
You can print out some pretty badass ASCII art on a dot matrix printer, bro. I did a lot of that.
Fuck yeah.
You know what's funny is the dirty kid. I always forget his name. The one with the contraption. He has
it's Snoopy.
Yeah, the dot matrix printer. I actually noticed it's an Oki data.
No way.
Yeah, it's like an Oki data like 190 something. Because he has the printer on top of the TV on like the cart. Like his like fucking
That's a little inside joke for me and Alan, but yeah, that's pretty funny. All right, so we get to where this all culminates, the big game, right? So the Little Giants, the ragtag group of underdogs, are going to play Kevin's team, which they are the Cowboys. And they decide way early on, I don't even know if we talked about it, that there can only be one team in the town, so they're going to play, and whoever wins gets to be the town's team.
And the whole town seems to have showed up. I mean, it's like a big deal. There's everyone in the stands. It's packed.
Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure is there.
All the people are cheering. It's like a whole event. Like, this is what's going on today.
But remember, Becky's not going to play. She's like, no, I'm a cheerleader now. So at first, like, the Little Giants are like stoked. They're like, oh, we fucking got this. We got the ice box. She's unstoppable. And they see her in a cheerleader outfit, and they kind of lose morale, don't they, Steve?
Yeah, they're kind of like, what are we going to do now? Like, they still have Junior, but without Becky, they're kind of like, oh God, we're fucked.
Yeah, because they got to play against Spike.
And they employ a lot of like illegal tactics during the course of this game. Some of which during the final play that they win the game with, but like they're hanging off his clothing. They're like pulling his shirt. They're hanging on his back. Like even at a Pop Warner game, they won't let you do that. You can't do that.
Right. I know. I almost expected there to be like booby traps on the field, like Mutant League football.
Right. Yeah, it turned into like the Bugs Bunny football game, you know.
Don't forget that the kid who couldn't catch dips his hand into some kind of like glue substance.
Yeah.
And that's how he's going to catch the ball.
It's like a tack they used to make it easier, but yeah. And then he goes to the line to start the play. They will not initiate the play in a football game until all the players are at the line. Like, so, but he walks out to the line with his hands stuck together. It's like, why'd you go out there? You can't use your fucking hands. Just don't walk out there.
Because you dipped them in like
panicked,
glue.
Okay?
Right.
Even the way the game starts off, like the kid we talked about, the kicker, he kicks the kid who's holding the ball like right in the nuts, and he just drops the ball, and the ref's like, that's a live ball. And I was like, it certainly is not a live ball. That is not how that works at all.
No.
Hold that exact thought for 1 second, because I made a note of this. When he gets kicked in the nuts at the beginning of the game, the announcer says, and I quote this because I made a note of this, he says, quote, "Someone's holding a pound of Aunt Betty's nut butter."
Whoa,
Somebody's holding about a pound of Aunt Betty's nut butter right now, and that's a live ball.
He does say that.
What the fuck does that mean? I was like just bewildered. Like I was like, what is this movie right now? He's like, that's literally what he says. I made
That's
sure to,
Harry
like, remind you.
Shearer, by the way.
It is. It's Harry Shearer. It's the second movie we've done where a voice from The Simpsons has appeared because Dan Castellaneta was in Space Jam for a minute.
And Super Mario.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah.
But what does that mean? Why would he say that?
It's just a funny way to say, haha, that kid got kicked in the balls.
There's no... Oh my god, okay.
I mean, the first half of this game is just all gags. Just like we talked about. Pappy, are there any gags that stand out to you in the first half?
In the first half, mostly just Spike, like, just trucking on kids. And like I mentioned, the getting kicked in the balls. It really just doesn't even seem to be any way that the little giant should come back. And I think it's worth noting, too, like, this football part's fucking long. Like, I was looking at the time. It's like at an hour when the football game starts, and it's like an hour and 45-minute movie. A significant portion is just this, like, last game. There's a lot that happens.
You know, I noticed the same thing actually when I was watching it. That's weird you bring that up because I thought the same exact thing. I looked at the time too, and I was like, dude, this is not. Yeah, it was a long part.
Hey, I mean, this is what the people are here for, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna name off some of the gags I wrote down from the first half that I thought were notable. Funny is more debatable. So, the kid, Rudy, the fat kid, he gets hit so hard that he starts talking out of his ass somehow.
Oh.
Is that physically possible?
Because Spike tells him he's gonna do that, and then he hits it so hard that happens or something.
There's a part where Spike has the ball, and it literally takes every single person on the team to take him down.
Yep.
There's a part where Spike tramples a kid, and his like body is imprinted in the grass.
Yeah, like a cartoon.
Yeah, like you have to be stomped on so hard for your body to imprint the ground. That kid should be like dead.
Like 6-inch deep, it's like dent.
That kid did die.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like getting stomped by Juggernaut.
One of the kids has like, they don't know the play, so he has it like written on his bare chest. So he like lifts up his shirt and they're pointing it out.
He's got a whole defensive playbook on his belly. It's weird.
Like who wrote that? Like why did you write it? You don't have paper? You have the scientist guy with the dot matrix printer and the
quarterback
TV.
Usually keeps that on his wrist. Literally, like why is this written on his stomach?
What's the point of the other kid, the scientist kid? That's like his job. Print out the plays. You have to write down the other kid's stomach.
And the last part that happens, the last gag anyway in the first half, and the one that I thought was so fucking funny as a kid, is when the kid gets his head ripped off.
I can't see with this thing on.
Oh, the fragile kid?
Yeah. So Spike like says, I'm gonna take your head off, and the kid he lowers his head down beneath his shoulder pad, so Spike like rips his helmet off, and it looks like the kid doesn't have a head. I thought that shit was so funny. But it's halftime, and the Cowboys are up by a huge margin. The Giants haven't scored, haven't really done shit at all because they don't have Becky, and they basically just want to quit. Pappy, why don't you take this one on?
Yeah, so they want to quit. They're all dejected in the locker room, and Rick Moranis delivers a halftime speech to rouse the troops, which I actually think is not the worst part of the movie, and that's only because I think Rick Moranis is a really good actor. But the speech, you guys, kind of boils down to one time, what was it, like Rose Hill or something? They used
Cherry
to race
Hill.
Cherry Hill. They used to race their bikes down, him and Kevin, and one time he beat Kevin, and that kind of like leads all the other kids to remember, oh, one time I went fishing and I was the only one who didn't puke, and one time I like threw shit farther than my stepbrother or something like that. I don't remember the turd toss, but like, yeah, it all kind of gets them fired up, and like we still have like a 1 in 100 chance of winning. Let's get out there and do it. And they're all fired up.
And one of the kid even, I'm pretty sure, is like, they start making shit up. Like one of the kids like, yeah, one time I went off this high dive and I did a triple backflip. It's like, okay, you're just lying now. Come on.
He's a Marine. Your brother got scared.
Marines don't get scared. Well, second half. Alan, why don't you take us through it?
Okay, yeah, second half. So the second half is where Icebox or Becky decides to come back.
She comes back because something happens.
What happens? Oh, Spike? Doesn't she see Spike like hit someone pretty hard?
Yeah, like Spike takes takes a shot at Junior
Junior,
while they're not in play, right?
Oh yeah, and then the ref calls a foul because Spike's just a beast. So he like tackles him after the play. So then Icebox gets upset and she's like, "No, I'm gonna help the kids out, or I'm going to be a part of the team. And she finds out she really wants to be a football player. Like,
She's
she didn't
still
want to
wearing
be a
her
cheerleader.
cheerleading skirt. It's like, I don't think she even had leg pads on. They let her play.
No, she's just badass. When she comes back, they run they got like funny name plays like you do in these kind of movies. They run Chicken Little Flea Flicker.
Right.
Do you guys remember what Chicken Little Flea Flicker is?
No, but I remember that. I also remember the big play, or the one that
no, we're not there. That's
okay.
that's the super secret play.
Oh, the super secret play? Okay. We're at the regular plays right now.
Is that the reverse for Tad?
No, it's a pitch to Johnny.
Oh, okay.
Don't pitch to Johnny. Johnny's not ready. I'm Johnny.
But he sees his dad, which makes him super good at football.
So stupid.
Because he's so distracted trying to get to his father, he can now avoid all these tacklers he couldn't avoid before. And then the play ends with him jumping into his dad's arm, which I get it. It's supposed to be that sweet moment, but it's like you're in the middle of playing a game. You can't run to your dad right now.
This was the payoff for the whole setup an hour earlier.
Yeah.
When he's like, oh, his dad's so busy.
It was satisfying, right, Pappy?
It's so stupid. It's so dumb.
I don't want to make it sound like my father was a particularly mean man, but if I, during a game, during any sport that I was playing, if I tried to, go up to him while we were playing, we'd be like, what are you doing? You're playing. Get back, go. No, don't hug me right now. What's wrong with you?
You can hug me after.
After the game, yeah, get back out there. Fuck.
Speaking of parents, remember Jake is a really fragile kid. His mom is in the stands, and they cut to her a few times. I have a question. Is she funny?
Funny? What kind of funny?
Funny.
There you go.
like a clown? Does she amuse you?
Right.
I thought it was funny that at the end and even in the stand, she's the craziest, or she's the one cheering the wildest.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That one moment is bad.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It goes going to her, and Pappy, I know you love this word. Was it cringy enough?
Oh, it was so cringe. Yeah, I watched it a little bit again, right before this podcast. I kind of skipped through the football scenes, and just the way that she has this smug look of satisfaction after she does that absurd celebration out of character. It just really it really bothers me.
That's the part that bothers me most too as well, because it's big celebration, and then it's this oh, you didn't know I could do that, did you? You thought I was so weird and conservative.
The actor was seeping through. Nailed it. Nailed it.
If you were a man, I'd punch you right now, lady.
Oh my god, it's dumb. We got a couple other things. So the Giants start doing better, right? So they score from Johnny. They get a little bit of confidence because Becky's back. Haanen, he realizes he can catch a ball if he thinks about toilet paper, right?
That's some Freudian shit right there.
That is actually what happens in the movie.
That's it.
That's
his
exactly
key to
how it
success.
is. Yeah,
he doesn't have to be a senator now.
Yeah, thank God I can play Pee-wee football. Clearly, this means I don't have to take a job in government.
Because I'm going to be a pro.
Obviously.
Yeah, that was definitely a weird scene. I don't know why they put that in there.
It starts getting close, the game. Spike kind of has the ball at near the end, and we kind of get our face off because him and Becky have been the two tough members of each team. And Spike's running the ball he's going to go for a touchdown. And him and Becky, collide head on. And it's okay, you're going to determine who won based on where the ball lands, right? Is it in the end zone or not?
Yeah.
And Becky wins. So Becky's clearly stronger than Spike.
Well, he clearly way crossed the line during that scene, too. It's obvious that he, got way over. And then when they cut to where the ball is, it's no, actually, it's 2 inches before.
Yeah.
That's not how football works at all. If he crossed the plane, It doesn't matter where the ball ends up afterwards. It's just the farthest that it went. It's so infuriating.
Pee-wee football, they have their own rules, man.
We have our own rules. We don't know how odds work.
There's a big one. I'm sure I'll get some agreement on it from Pappy, but during the final play, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, the final play is pretty much up, right? So the Giants need to score. They decide... Why don't you take the beginning and then you take over, Steve? What play do they run, Alan?
Oh, they run the annexation of Puerto Rico. Which is a ridiculous name for a play and for like 11-year-olds.
Well, it's like, because, he's like a kid that is into history. He wears a suit. He reads a lot of books. He's a fucking huge dork. So, of course, he's going to call it the annexation of Puerto Rico.
He tells Madden that it's a modified version of a play that Madden used during a Super Bowl. And then they kind of refine it together. Madden's like, oh, why don't you try this?
He's giving his secrets to the kids. I love it.
Yeah, their super secret last play.
I mean, what's going on in this play, Steve? Can you kind of break it down? Because I don't really know what's happening.
It's complicated to explain the way they're trying to lay it out, but basically what ends up happening is they've set it up so that as each person in possession of the ball gets tackled or grabbed by somebody, they pass the ball backwards to someone else who's available, and they manage to like chain it together to get all the way to the end zone. But that, even by Pee Wee rules, totally not allowed. Backward passes are not allowed.
Yeah.
I remember a really infamous playoff game, the real Cowboys were in. It must have been 95 or 96. They needed to win this game to go to the Super Bowl. Last few seconds of the game, down by less than a touchdown. The Cowboys got possession. Emmitt Smith ran the ball pretty much it was like 2/3 of the field.
He was in this movie.
Yeah, he was in the movie too. Ends up getting it to the end zone. Big, huge scores. The Cowboys are going to go to the Super Bowl. On review, the ref decided that, I can't remember who'd had the ball before Smith, but whoever it was, on review, the ref decided that technically Smith was like 1.5 feet behind the other player. And it qualified as a backward pass, and it nullified the touchdown, and the other team won the game. Like, you can't do it. Even in a Pee Wee game, the ref would be like, no, backwards pass, you lose. Oh, game over. It's game over. You've lost.
Ignoring the rules of football.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, that's part of the play, but I think part of the play also requires...
The fumble-rooski?
Is that what that is,
Oh,
Pappy?
that's
Why don't you tell us
true,
about
Well,
that?
it's weird. Like, okay, first of all, when Ed O'Neill's calling out the fumble-rooski, he says it twice, but it's clearly a choice that was made in post-production because it's the same take of him saying fumble-rooski, but one's just like one shot and then one's like a super close-up on his face. Fumble-rooski, fumble-rooski. It's literally the same thing twice in a row. It drives me crazy.
Fumble-rooski.
She doesn't have the ball. Fumble-rooski, fumble-rooski.
Yeah, it's definitely illegal. So, like in football, you can't hand off the ball or pass the ball to a lineman. But there used to be a technicality, I guess, where if you fumbled the ball on the ground and the lineman picked it up, then they could run with it. I think they had long been outlawed in football, I think, like even before the Little Giants. But somehow the lunchbox kid, the gas man, ends up with the football. And that's how that whole like backwards pass thing that Steve was talking about gets kicked off.
And they like fake passing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this play is all over the place. Like we all saw the movie. We're struggling to put together what this is. Like, how are you supposed to comprehend?
I thought it was just because I don't know about football.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Well, it also involves you have to fart and like make the other guys.
Oh, you got to distract the other team by farting at them.
Right.
Just the recurring flatulent joke.
Maybe that's why like only the Little Giants can pull this play off. Like,
only the Little Giants have a player flatulent enough. What will they do when he retires?
It's pretty good.
Oh, and we totally forgot to mention that when the game first started, that Kevin and Danny, they made a bet for each other's businesses. Remember, they upped the bet. Where he's like, if I win, I get the car dealership, and if Kevin won, he got his like gas station.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
This pissed me off, actually.
Same.
Because at the end of the movie, I don't know if it's the same reason for you, Pappy. At the end of the movie, Kevin's like, oh, you're not actually going to hold me to that, right? Ha. And it's like, no, if you'd won, you absolutely would have taken his gas station from him. You even told him at one point during the game, like, I'm going to have you running the pump, bitch. Like, and it's like, you would have done it. If Kevin, and I have a brother, if Kevin were my brother, I would have been like, no, fucking that dealership's mine, and my lawyer's going to be calling you about that paperwork tomorrow morning. Like, get out, motherfucker, you're done.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they didn't sign anything. It wasn't notarized. I mean,
they said it in front of the whole town, man.
Yeah, what's even stranger is it's broadcast to the whole stadium, and even knowing that their family's livelihood is in jeopardy, Kevin's wife is still rooting for the Little Giants. And at no point is like, we're going to be out of a job if our team doesn't win.
Yeah, she should just marry the other brother. Same difference.
But yeah, so when they win though, they don't. They come into an agreement where he won't take his car dealership, but he has to change the name on the water tower.
That's right, because the water tower says home of Kevin O'Shea, because he's like the famous college ball player. But they change it to home of the O'Shea brothers.
Nobody cares about the other O'Shea brother. Sorry, Rick Moranis, but it's true. No one cares about your character.
Well, they do now because the Little Giants won.
Yeah, because his ragtag team beat the good ones once.
One time. Steve.
Now he's important.
Didn't you listen to the fucking speech, goddammit?
Oh, yeah, that one's all you need.
You've already forgotten the
Well,
lesson.
you know what? That kind of mantra's probably great if you're like the Cleveland Browns. And it'd be like, we won a game once 10 years ago, so great. Like,
We're a team of 11-year-old
Ball jokes. The Little Giants do win, thanks to the genius newbies play of the annexation of Puerto Rico. And we talked about the bet, so they decide, it's fine, you can keep your business. But then, one thing I do like is that Spike, in a sign of respect, he starts a slow clap. You gotta have a slow clap in a movie like this, right?
Oh, the slow clap, yeah.
fucking Spike.
Did he, was he redeemed in that slow clap, you think?
No, that kid's a psycho. 12 hours after that, he was assaulting some other kid behind a library.
Or 12 hours, his dad was like beating him or
Right.
something because you didn't win.
Fucking paging him. Like, get home, I gotta massage your calves with this milk shit.
That's where the movie pretty much ends. Do you guys know what happened to the actor Rick Moranis? Because I miss that guy.
Yeah. So in '86, he got married to a woman who was a costume designer. She was diagnosed with a form of cancer, I don't know what kind, and died in 1991. And they had 2 kids together. He continued to act for about 6 years after she passed. But in '97, he decided that his career made it impossible for him to spend as much time with his kids as he wanted. And he took sort of a hiatus. He's always said that he never really retired from acting. He just voluntarily stopped working for a chunk of time until his kids were old enough that he felt like he could go back. And he's more recently said that like he's still interested, but he's selective about what he's interested in taking. And the last few years, he's only done voiceover stuff. This is one of the last, if not the last films he was actually in that was like really him.
I was just going to say that. Is this one of his last movies?
Close. Yeah, pretty close if it's not the last one.
Damn.
Yeah.
And knowing that, it made it like really poignant when he was like to his daughter, "It's just you and me." I'm like, that was pretty touching. But then he takes it way too far, and he's always like harping on, "Your mom quit on us. Your mom quit on us." It's like, Jesus, dude.
And they never explain it too. Like we said, that's it. That's all they literally say. She just quit or left. They never say why, what happened. And the movie ends kind of abruptly. There's no like, they don't tie any of the ends. They don't explain what happened to the kids. Remember in The Sandlot? The Sandlot, they like tell you what happened to all the kids.
Yeah.
They went off and did things.
Unfortunately,
and
I think it's in this one, it's probably the dorky kids all grew up and just lived middle-class lives. Like,
They
nothing
won
special.
Bitter
TV game
Steve.
once.
Yeah, right?
But it just ends. Like they don't explain what happened to Spike or Icebox or.
Spike ended up in juvie. We can do our own predictions.
This is going to be like the end of Stand By Me, where it's all bad stuff.
Yeah.
Or just even
Like
something.
This one
Even if
died
it's
in a
bad
restaurant,
stuff.
that one went to jail. Like, nah, it's cool.
They don't explain anything. Like they won. Like end.
I mean, Newbie probably became an engineer or something, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so. Because most of those kids did not have careers in real life after this movie.
He might have started just cooking meth, like Breaking Bad style.
Right. Some of them probably did that too.
I have a question for you guys, and this is for you too, Pappy.
All right. Here we go.
The question is, in Little Giants, who is the Jesus character? This question is sponsored by Josh.
Pappy and Josh are going to have a conversation about this.
Pappy, you guys will never sue us over this, right?
No, I wouldn't. It's Josh's bit though. So
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
He
you guys
might.
can have it.
All right. I'll have my lawyer talk to him. Alan, who do you think the Jesus character
I
is?
get Jesus. This is probably the hardest one out of any movie. I don't even. Icebox. Because she leaves to become the cheerleader, and then she comes back. She's like resurrected, or she's back to save the day.
And she saves the team.
Yeah.
That's very good. Pappy, who do you think is the Jesus character?
I'm gonna go with. I was gonna say Icebox. But I'm gonna pivot mine to Danny O'Shea because he resurrected the local gas station, which is a landmark apparently in the town.
It ought to be a landfill.
Yeah.
Alan stole my original answer, and Pappy stole my backup answer. I'm gonna have to think about this, Corey.
Come on, Steve. Your answer is
All right,
Kevin.
then I'm gonna go with. Oh God, what's even left? Like one of the little kids. I mean, you know what? I'm gonna go with Spike because at the end he redeems himself by clapping for
Slow
him.
clap. Slow clap Spike.
Slow clap Spike.
Dip
That's,
it.
no matter what I say, I'm gonna be wrong. So
Definitely
I
didn't go
with
to juvie. All right. So you're close, Steve. You're closest.
Oh, wow.
So Sam Horrigan is the actor that played Spike. He's the Jesus character.
Nice.
Because he played Jesus in a movie called In God's Time.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not bad, right?
Man, lofty.
All right. Ratings. So in any rating scale you want, what are you going to give this one, Alan?
I'm going to give this one 6 out of 10 touchdowns. I mean, there's not really a lot to... I mean, a lot of it was corny. Look, we've been making fun of it. But there was nothing particularly super bad about it. Maybe just that one cringy scene with the mom. But, like, it wasn't poorly made. It was a little goofy, but it's a kid's movie. I can't be too hard on it. But 6 out of 10. It was whatever.
6 out of 10. What about you, Pappy?
I'll go 4 out of 10 yards. It's pretty gross. I mean, like, honestly, like the whole fact that it's like a commercial for this really violent sport, and the fact that like the only way to Alan's point, you're right, it's a movie for like little kids. Like I don't see how it could work. I mean, besides a couple like ridiculous over the top stuff that did make me laugh at the movie, I guess with the movie maybe once or twice, but the only way I could see this playing is for like 6 and under, like really maybe like 8, and it just feels like it's just littered with product placement. Like the scene in the grocery store that we talked about, she's showered in products. Like half the shots have like Shell in the background when they're practicing. It's just I would never show a 6-year-old this movie at this point, like especially with the train track stuff and everything, and if not for them, it's pretty pointless. So overall, 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10 yards.
Steve, what about you?
I'm gonna kind of split the difference. I'm gonna go 5 out of 10 first downs. I think Pappy and I may disagree a little bit on the degree to which this is an advertisement for the NFL. Either that, or I'm just less bothered by it, which could be the case. It's certainly not a standout children's movie. It's never going to be on the level like The Goonies. But to Alan's point, where I'd agree, I think for the most part, it's pretty common fare for like a kid's movie. I found certain parts of it to be kind of offensively stupid, but overall, it's mostly an innocuous movie. I recall kind of sort of finding it mildly amusing at 10 when I found it. So I think I'd probably argue personally, I feel like the age range for this one might be up to like 12, 13, but it probably depends a lot on the kid too. Not great, not terrible, not super memorable, but dumb in its own way. So 5 out of 10 for me.
5 out of 10?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 3 out of 10 Chicken Little Flea Flicker plays. You know, I was going to give it lower. I was going to give it something like a 1. But then I was thinking back on Super Mario Brothers, and I was like, just like comparing them in my mind as you were talking.
Yeah.
And it's not quite as bad as that movie.
That's the thing. Like, you got to do relative comparison to really tell yourself how bad it is.
Right. I always want to give a movie a worse rating than I initially think. So I think I'm being kind of generous here. I mean, it's not good, especially compared to the good 90s sports movies. It's definitely no Cool Runnings. But it has a couple, I mean, Rick Moranis is definitely the best part of it. I don't know. I don't like a lot of the kids. There's a kid called Rad Tad in here. And I was mad because he's not rad, that kid. So that bugged the shit out of me the whole time. I'm serious. I was thinking about it the whole movie. I was like, is he going to like put on sunglasses or something? Like, what the fuck? Be more rad, kid. Anyway, I don't really like this one that much. I mean, it has some nostalgia. And if you go like 20 years, it might be like, oh yeah, this movie's pretty good. I remember it being good. But then when you watch it, I'm sorry, you'll be let down. So if you're listening, I would say probably don't pop this one back in. It's no Mighty Ducks. Now, we got to pull out of the hats, but the hat is over there.
Oh my God.
Steve, can you get the hat?
Can you guys describe the hat? I've been a Big Dumb listener for a long time, and I what does the hat look like?
Okay, so it's a woman's hat. It's like a kind of like a fedora looking hat. It's my wife's. It was custom made for her by her friend who makes hats.
And we use it to do this.
I was just gonna say, like oh, it's my wife's hat. We just used to pick movies from.
Yeah. She laughs every time she sees me grab it. In fact, one time she told me to get my own hat. So, yeah,
I think it's Alan's poll.
Oh, is it mine? Okay,
all right, hand it off.
Okay, what movie are we getting now? Something ridiculous. Okay,
Please
this one.
Be something fun.
Here we go. The movie is drumroll. I can open it. Oh, it's actually one I picked that I've never seen.
Uh-oh.
It's Over the Top.
Okay, I'm free passing. I'm vetoing this shit.
Which one is Over the Top? I'm not sure if I even remember that.
It's
movie.
the one with Stallone where he's like a truck driver.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. I mean, I don't love it. Interesting. That's what you're using your veto on. So how do we handle the veto situation? I'll get a second draw.
So this is locked in for the one after the free pass, no matter what, and can't be passed.
Oh, okay.
So this is for after that.
We talked about the rules once, but
we have kind
it was
of
a long time ago.
So how are we going to establish what goes in its place then?
Well, I'm using my pass. And I'm picking one.
Oh, okay.
I'm pulling it out of thin air, out of my brain. Hook.
Ooh. Okay. We're going to have to keep it civil because you and I are going to disagree a lot about this movie.
Oh, you better not make fun of Hook, motherfucker.
No, I thought you were going to go that route.
Oh, fuck no.
Because I love that movie.
Me too.
Honestly, I do. Like, okay, all right, good. Yeah.
We're safe. All right,
Yeah.
so that means Hook is next. Over the Top is after that. Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Well, we do have actually an email that I should read. So.
Oh, shit. It's not from the guy who's been in prison, is it?
That thing I sent you earlier? No. So we got an email from my brother. He listened to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode and sent me this. He said, I love the podcast, but when Josh pointed out how they tried to say master and decided to say mama, LOL, I was waiting for one of you guys to be like, by the way, where did they fucking learn English? But sadly, it never happened.
Right? It's a good point. I was thinking it. We should have vocalized it.
Yeah,
He said, as a side note, he wants to suggest the rundown.
Oh, the one with The Rock and what's his name with the three names?
Yeah, William Scott.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I remember that one.
He said Kino finally kicked some ass, and The Rock at that. So
it's pretty stupid. We could do it.
I think I'll throw that one in the hat for my brother. You know, I joke around a lot about my mom being our biggest fan.
Right.
It's actually my brother who's our biggest fan. He listens more than her. He really likes us. So,
well,
right.
Robert, for you, we'll definitely put it in the hat.
He's clearly a genius.
Pappy, Spoilers Podcast. That's where you come from. Why don't you plug your show? Tell us about it. Where can they find you, etc.?
Yeah, so Big Dumb Movie is my favorite movie podcast, but my second favorite podcast is the one that I'm on, Spoilers. We do a variety of movies, and it's kind of like a book club for movies where we play a little trivia at the end, and the winner picks the next movie. So check us out if you listen to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode. Josh is on that as well. So if you like Big Dumb Movie, I think you'll like us too. So give it a listen.
I definitely agree with that. We kind of... All right, I feel like are almost a spin-off podcast, the viewers, because after listening to you guys, I wanted to start my own, and here we are.
Well, I remember like when I started Spoilers, there was a movie podcast that I liked that was pretty popular, but like I could do it way better than those guys. So that's why I started my own. So I hope it's something similar that you heard Spoilers and like, these guys kind of suck.
It's close. So I'll tell you what. So after listening to your show, I wanted to be on your show. I told my wife that specifically. I said, there's this podcast and I want to be on it. But since I can't do that, next best thing, me and Alan. Actually, I think Alan came up with the idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Big Dumb Movie specifically, but I was like, we should just do it. I was like, we should just start our own podcast.
Absolutely.
And they found me sleeping outside the building they work in. So it's like, well, I guess he's following us around anyway. We may as well let me on the show.
Quick note on spoilers, Pappy. Corey told me there was a Tokyo Drift episode that I've been meaning to listen to. Because that's one of my favorite movies.
Nobody understands why.
So I'm definitely going to listen to that one. And
Pappy, is that the one where you lose your shit?
No, I lost it on Furious 2, and then my mom was disappointed in me.
I'm super excited to listen to
Dude, I want to
Drift.
listen to the episode. I would listen to that one where you lose your shit and made your mother disappointed. That sounds like it's going to be my favorite.
She wasn't angry, but I might have to not tell her about the one where I admit to doing pots on this podcast. So.
Pappy, if you were to recommend to someone who hasn't listened to spoilers, the first episode to listen to, what would you say is a good one to start with?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe by the time this comes out, we just did one on The Room, and I'm pretty excited about it. We broke some new ground. We got into some deep Tommy Wiseau lore. So look for that to come out. That would be a good one to start off with.
Wow, awesome. I didn't even know you guys were doing that. It's great. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I've gone to screenings of it. It's great. All right, guys. If you like what you heard, send us an email, send us a suggestion, talk to us at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com. If you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. It helps a lot. You can leave us a positive rating on iTunes. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on Hook, which vetoed Over the Top.
See ya.
Good night.